yet, but I will
Start
open it as soon as I do.
streaming. It should be in your text now.
Yeah, it is not showing up yet.
It's coming, Mike. It's coming. Links take a long time.
Alrighty.
So the live stream is
Still
working.
waiting.
Is that for real? Like, are you really still waiting? Hold on.
Yeah.
I'll send it in the chat. That's
Here, I'll grab a screenshot of
that's wild.
this and I'll send it to you.
Oh, that's wild. So I got your screenshot.
Yeah.
All right, it's in the chat. I just sent it in the chat.
All right.
Did you get that?
Yep, that showed up. So let's mute that. Keep that open over here. All right. Think I'm good then. Motion, stick you up there. Stick zoom over here. Whoa, no, I don't want you to be that big zoom. Unnecessary. Okay, shrink. Oh, stop it. There. All right. Yeah, I think we can count down when you're ready.
I am ready to rock when you are.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Good to go.
All right. Looks good on my end.
All right, Mike. We are back. We are ready to talk about sponsors. But before we talk about sponsors, I participated in a hackathon last week. Are you familiar with what a hackathon is?
I mean, at a very general level, yes. But I had never participated in one and have no idea what it would look like in in practice.
Okay. So here are the details of it. So step one, you decide you're going to commit to a hackathon, right? So a hackathon is like it's basically like a youth camp lock-in for a bunch of nerds, right? So a bunch of people who like to program, who like to develop code, who like to do things like that. They decide, okay, we're going to go lock ourselves into a hotel or a conference center or whatever it is for like 30 plus hours, 48 hours, however long it is, and we're going to create something interesting. So this one was for AI and human flourishing. So how can we use AI and human flourishing, or to increase human flourishing? So it was a very targeted hackathon put on by a company called Glue, and I took a team of CCU students there, and the students had no idea what to get into either. So we were, I think, what there were there 7 computer science students, and then one engineering student, no, sorry, 2 engineering students, and then 1 business student who's doing an engineering design minor. And then there were 2 faculty. So our team was like 12 people, 12 people total. Well, we get there and we register and we get in there and we just start going and we just start like coding and developing and figuring out what we're going to do and then dividing the task, and everybody's taking different aspects of it. And what I can tell you is I have never seen vibe coding work so well in my entire life, because I mean, like, we did everything from taking like visual mock-ups like wireframes, throwing them into the LLMs, having it start and like generate that first round of code, and then once that first round of code was made, then we could tweak and then we could adjust and then we could say like, oh, this is too big, this is too small, this isn't the right color, we want that button to be over here. And then the development on the back end linked to the front end, and like it was a very, very interesting process to see how this came together for a group of people, like the CS students and the other professor that was there. Like, they know what they're doing. Like, they are much better developers than the 2 engineers and the 1 business student and I am. So it was really fun to see like the way we approach things and then the way they approach things and then how we kind of brought everything together. Our app was looking at how can we aggregate homeless, like, resources for homeless individuals, so they don't have to go to like the different websites and figure out, like, is this soup kitchen on today? Is this warming shelter open today? Is this, and it would basically aggregate it for them. And, for before anybody says like, well, do homeless people have cell phones? Yes, most of them do. Like, the stat is like 70 or 80% of them have cell phones. And if not, they typically know where like the libraries are and where to get access to different resources and things like that. So we did that. I mean, we went after it for a couple days. I pulled my first pseudo all-nighter in about 15, maybe 20 years. And let me tell you what, Mike, 40-year-old all-nighter is not anything like 20-year-old all-nighter. I cannot hang with the all-nighters anymore. I do not have it. So that's the general gist. I'm gonna let you see if you have any questions. I'm gonna let you ask any questions if you want to.
No, I don't think I could ever really do the all-nighter. So even 40-year-old you is ahead of
I
ahead of me there.
I slept for about an hour and a half. I took an hour and a half nap, and it was because I didn't have anything to do. Like, the back end team was really churning and burning on something, so I was like, oh, I don't have anything to do. I may as well lay down for an hour and a half.
Nice. What did you use vibe coding wise?
Yeah, so it was primarily Gemini, was what I used the most. Claude was brought in at different times, and then some of the students were using Chat GPT to do different things. And I'll tell you, most of what Gemini was churning out was good. I think it was Gemini 2.5 Pro was the model that I was using at this point, and it was turning out like really good results. And I was very pleased with the way it went. It kind of, I don't know, kind of messed with my brain in a good way to be like, you can do a lot more of this than you think you can do, and it's a lot more accessible now than it's ever been, ever been. And that was pretty neat to see kind of how that panned out.
Yeah, so the one that I've heard lots of people use for code is Claude. Is there a reason that you went with Gemini at the beginning?
It was probably because I have an unlimited is probably not the right word, but I have like a pro account, like the upgraded account to
Okay.
Gemini. So I didn't have to worry about getting 20 prompts into it and then it saying, oh, we're going to limit your smarts for the next whatever. So I just kind of picked that one and worked with that one, and then we would dip into other ones if we weren't getting what we liked. The biggest one that I find I don't like about them right now is I don't like any of the like logos or graphics.
Hmm.
I want to like them, but I don't like them. And so it's like, if you're trying to develop something quick and you want a good logo or a good graphic, I just don't think they're very good right now. And I want them to
No.
be better than that, because then you'd have essentially like the whole package, like with just these tools that you can call on whenever you want to call on them.
Sure. Did you use any of the IDEs? I think that's what they're called, like the cursor or anything like that?
No, they recommended, like, the organization that put this on, they recommended using like Lovable.
Okay. Yep.
There's another one that they said Flutter. Is Flutter, like, I can't remember if that's one or not, but they recommended using like a couple of them, but we didn't do that. We really just interfaced with the standard chat interface. But I think, like I said, it was exciting because I don't know if I've talked to you about this before, but like I have an app idea in my head that if I would ever commit to it, I actually think it could be a useful app to a bunch of different people. And it's really, like, when I think about it, it's not that hard. Like, what I'm trying to do is not difficult at all. It's just a matter of sitting down and putting it together. The thing that does make it difficult a little bit is it's an Apple Watch app. So I've heard that engaging anything with the Apple Watch is like choose your own adventure, go at your own risk. Like you're kind of asking for trouble. So you know, I don't know if it'll ever get done or not, but it seems like kind of a fun one. But I know you do a decent amount of, I don't want to say vibe coding, but like problem solving through Obsidian and like kind of coding through Obsidian that way. Have you found it to be successful?
Well, I don't really do any coding. I've downloaded Cursor, but never really had a project to use it with. And I use different AI tools for like thinking partners and like creative collaboration. I was actually in the library walking through a group of people yesterday on how to like use it to create your ideal customer profile, and it
Mm-hmm.
just asks you, prompts, and you continue to throw stuff at it, and it kind of packages it all up nicely. But that's sort of my extent with it, and I actually don't connect it to my Obsidian Vault. I haven't found a great way to do that. I know that there are plugins, Copilot specifically, that you can use an API and you can query your notes that way. And I'm not really interested in doing that because I don't want it making those connections for me inside my vault.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's probably an application using something like MCP. So that's the next thing for me, is to use Claude probably to figure out how to pipe in my notes to MCP and connect it to something else, and then get those connections via the AI interface and be able to ask questions of it that way. But again, I haven't really found a specific use case like I really want to do this with it, so I'm going to take the time to
Yeah.
set it up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Did you and I talk, not to go too far down the rabbit hole, so stop me. Did we talk about Perplexity and the Comet browser yet?
I'm not sure that we did. I'm familiar with it though. I paid for Perplexity for a while. I don't think I do anymore. So I didn't use it enough.
Yeah, it it does some pretty wild things. Stephen Robles has a video where he has it do some things, and that's a good example of what it was able to do. That was probably 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I don't know how far it's advanced in those few weeks, but I asked it to go do 5 local high schools. I said, tell me the next game that each of these high schools has. And for those of you who are like, well, that seems pretty easy, right? Aren't all those just stored somewhere on the internet? No, because they're either at a high school website, which are historically dismal, right? I mean, absolutely dismal, or they're on like some aggregator site where you basically go to like, so maxpreps.com, right? Like you'd go to maxpreps, you'd search for the high school you want to, then you'd have to click 4 different times into like wherever the schedule is to actually get to their schedule, and it like navigates all that on its own. So I just said, here are the 5 high schools. They're all located around Denver, Colorado. Go find the next home game for all of them. And it shows you, it's like, oh, navigating. And I told it to use Max Preps. So like go to it's navigating to Max Preps, searching for the high school, clicking, finding the schedule page, and then like it spit them all back to me. And I was like, oh no, the internet is different. And we've had it do like Amazon searches for different things, where it's gone and found the top 5 products based on user rating, or the top 5 sorted by this and this. And it's not perfect at it, but man, it did a pretty good job. So the way we browse the internet's going to change too. That's for sure.
Yep. Yeah. That was a big thing at the CX event I went to, because there's been a big emphasis for a long time on writing stuff on the internet for SEO purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And what does SEO look like now? Because it's not search engines, it's
Yeah.
AI crawlers.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, we got hit with our first, or I got hit with my first robot.txt file, where it basically said you're not allowed to crawl this website. And I was like, ethically speaking, we should listen to that, because they've asked us not to crawl their website. So we should really not crawl their website. But we really wanted to crawl their website because that's where they post when their next soup kitchen is available, or when their next,
Mm-hmm.
so we were like, we need to. So if we were doing it long term, we would ask them for permission. We'd say, hey, here's our app, here's what it does. Can we crawl your website? That way, when you post an update, it gives us the new information. And more than likely, they would say yes, because of what we're using it for. We're using it in a good way, but But that was my first time ever going, oh, the robot.txt file. I actually understand, what it does now and how it tries to help the internet.
Yeah, the crazy thing about that is I think most of the, if not all, of the AI crawlers have completely ignored
Oh
those.
yeah, they do. Yeah, I think they do too. I think we as humans need to be better than that, but I think the AI crawlers just plow right through, ignore
Yep,
robot.txt.
right.
Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you for entertaining my hackathon story. That's why I am kind of out of it this week, and last week is because basically from Wednesday to Friday evening, I was locked in a room and just really working hard on a single problem. And then it took me until, I don't know, yesterday to recover. Am I recovered? I don't know if I am. I don't know if I am recovered or not yet, but it was a great experience. So thanks for letting me talk about it.
Yeah, sounds cool.
Yeah.
Let us know when the app is available.
I don't know if the students want to progress it further.
Okay.
They like the idea. I don't know if they want to maintain it. Like that's the big thing is you gotta be willing
Yeah.
to maintain something like that. And I don't think that's their interest right now. They thought it was a cool project for the hackathon, but I don't think they want to continue it forward.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Alrighty.
All right. All right. Ready to talk about a book?
Yes, I am. All right. Okay. Do we even with the live stream do we restart like normal? I'm trying to remember. Like, do we redo the
No, we
intro?
don't
Okay. So we just
don't restart. Just jump right into
just
it.
roll right into it. Okay.
Yep.
All right, Mike. So today we're going to talk about Justin Moore's sponsor magnet. But before we do, we have some follow up items to hit. First things first is I was supposed to talk to you about accountability, and I did not do that. so
Do you remember what this is for?
the accountability, it's for us writing a
Yeah.
book, isn't it? Right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
Yep.
and I still want to write the book. Like my goal is to still write the book, but I'm not. Like man, man, oh man, oh man, oh man. I got to figure out a way to maintain these follow up items and not let them fall off the radar. But that's for another time. My next one was to think about my granny hobby, and I said it was probably going to be a physical hobby. I think that this is going to be running. I really think this is going to be running, and
We talked about this. That's not a granny
I
hobby.
know, but I still want it to be running. Like I still want it to be running. So I just want it to be running, Mike, because I can like
Maybe it could be vibe coding.
it could be, but vibe coding still takes too much of my brain. Like I don't want to be in front of a computer screen.
Yeah, that's fair. So for listeners, for context, the pro show today we talked about Corey's experience at a hackathon and why he's so sleepy today.
Yes, and why I'm so sleepy and out of it. So for everybody who's like, wait, he seems like really off and out of it. Yes, this is accurate, and I'm doing my best. Here we go. But no, I really think like I want my granny hobby to be low, slow cardio of some sort.
I like that.
I mean, I feel like that hits, but maybe it doesn't. So all right, then
Sure.
my last one is how do I make pockets in my schedule more productive? Like so, how do I fill those small periods of time in my schedule with actually productive things, as opposed to something where I need like a half hour ramp up, work hard for a couple hours and then a half hour ramp down. I actually don't know. Like this one has been a struggle for me. I think the last 2 weeks has probably not been the best time for me to try to implement something like this, only because I've been feeling like I've been running wall to wall with just normal stuff. But I do really want to think about this one more because there. I think we talked about this a little bit last week or last episode, but um, my schedule doesn't. I don't get to pick it all the time, right? So it's like
Hmm.
I have to figure out what to do with those 35, 40 minute, hour long windows that don't allow for that really deep thinking time. And I really need to look at my schedule and think about this. This is where I think something like your personal retreat journal comes in and helps out. The thing I have to figure out is how do I stay consistent on doing that Sunday, get ready for the week, because my week starts on Monday, like any sane human being. But that was a joke to all you did I say my week starts on Monday? My week starts on Monday, like sane human being. Because that's for you Sunday starters. You Sunday starters, it doesn't make any sense to me. Sunday's the end of the week. Mike, what are you? Are you a Monday start or a Sunday start?
I guess Monday,
Yeah,
like all my calendars, I use Monday as
yeah,
the first day of the week, but it kind of really doesn't matter.
yeah.
Uh, I just do the daily planning.
I disagree with you. It does matter. Monday is the start of the week, and Sunday's the end of the week. But
Okay, fine.
I do need to think about that. Like, how on Sunday do I stay consistent with doing that plan for the next week? And I think that'll help me find the pockets. So those are my follow up items. Mike, what did you have for this week?
I had a couple of them. So first one was, well, actually, I'm going to take these a little bit out of order. Um, Make a list of the things that I'm putting off. So I started to do this, and then I realized the things that I was putting off are stupid. And as soon as I started putting those things on my time block plan using the personal retreat planner that we talked about last time,
Yeah.
uh, that list basically went away. um,
That's great.
yeah, so I'm really leaning into using this planner, and I'm forcing myself to do the three intentions for the week and then the three tasks for the day. And so it really does help me stay intentional as I go throughout my day. And I knew this and I've done it in the past, but I guess I'm realizing now that I had kind of slipped a little bit
Mm,
in the regularity of that habit. Because with the planner, I want to do it even on Saturdays and Sundays. I want to make sure that there's no gaps in my daily pages by the time I get to the end.
Not to cut you off, I'm struggling with that. Right, like I'm struggling with Friday, Saturday, and Sunday right now. And this is when you asked me for feedback. I was like, let me get another week in it. I'm struggling with Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and that uh, seems to have alleviated the necessity. Let me try that again. That seems to have negated the necessity for making the or maintaining the list. The making the list was a good way to initiate this, but the next one was don't save all my fun time for the weekend. I have been able to make a little bit of traction on this, but not a lot because I still feel like I am a little bit behind. And we have a trip coming up where we're going to be going to Tennessee for the National Homeschool Soccer Tournament next week. So I have to get ahead
Yeah,
before we leave.
yeah,
The last one was to create a time free zone where I don't care about time for the reasons that have been previously discussed. Haven't really made much progress with this either. However, I do think that what I want to do for this is incorporate some regular gaming time. Now, this is kind of dangerous. I think like gaming could be a slippery slope. FC 26 came out. That's the FIFA soccer game. We're a big soccer family. I really like that game. They have this seasons thing where you play like 10 games and then based on your results you either go up or you get relegated. And they have different levels of that. So the highest level is level 1 and then based on how many points you win there, you can win, you can maintain or you can like win the title, if you really just absolutely crush it during those 10 games. Well, a couple of years ago, I won the title for like the top level of the seasons in FIFA. They don't really have like a leaderboard where you can say, "Oh, I'm the top 10, FIFA player in the world," but like that's the top level for the seasons. I was pretty good at it.
nice.
I this yeah, that's my thing is soccer. So I would love to be able to just play like a couple of games a day because they take like 10-15 minutes when you play them online. And I've been able to do that kind of intermittently here and there, but it's not a regular thing.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of benefits that come from gaming for me because I don't and we've talked about this before. Like I have trouble identifying the thing that I do for
I
fun
know.
that actually legit is like super fun for me.
Yeah.
So I should figure out a way to do it a little bit more. And I want to when I do it, not think like, oh, I've only got time for one game, then I got to go, do something else. I want to just be able to enjoy it when I do it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that does completely make sense. All right. Are we ready to roll to sponsor magnet?
Think so.
All
Let's
right.
do it.
All right. So today's book is called Sponsor Magnet: How to Attract, Price, and Execute Your Dream Brand Partnership. This came from Justin Moore, which Mike if I'm remembering correctly, did you see Justin Moore speak, or did you hear Justin Moore speak at CEX? Is that kind of where this book came from?
Well, I originally met him at Craft and Commerce,
Okay.
and I remember it was the first year I had gone there as an independent creator, and so I didn't have like a team of people that I was hanging out with. I was sort of there myself, and I walked into the opening party thing, which was at this restaurant called Great Western, I think. It
Okay.
was sort of like a Buffalo Wild Wings type bar with a bunch of like the mini bowling and all like the adult video games,
Mm-hmm,
you
mm-hmm,
know.
mm-hmm.
And I was kind of, it was loud, not my scene at all. You
Okay.
know, the introvert who is there with a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of noise, and I'm like ready to leave and bump into Justin. And I was familiar with him because I had followed him online a little bit at that point, and he ended up being just like one of the nicest guys I had
That's awesome.
ever talked to. Like
Yeah.
dropped everything, talked to me for 10, 15 minutes, mentioned, I'd just gone out on my own. Very encouraging. And then later on in the Craft and Commerce conference, he spoke from the main stage and he talked about the agency that he had to shut down and was just very vulnerable about some difficult stuff that he had to go through. Totally resonated with me in the place that I was at. And after that, talked to him again. And that was the situation I described in a previous episode where I felt like, it's right after his keynote. Everybody there is wanting to go up to him and tell him, "Hey, you did awesome, great job." And he just like drops everything and talks to me for 10 minutes. And it's like the 400 people that are there in the Treefort Music Hall for the conference
Yeah.
are watching us. But he just has this way of when he talks to you, you feel like you're the only person in the room. You're the only person in that he really connects. As he's not
That's
like
great.
scanning the room. Well, who am I going to go talk to
Yeah,
next?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
One of those people. So just one of the most authentic, genuine people that I've ever met. And my path continues to cross with his because we're both members in Jay Klaus's lab community. So I end up running into him a lot of different places now, the different events that I go. He was at CEX. He was at a dinner that I went to at CEX with Jay's group. Just a great guy. And I guess for a long time, I thought, well, the sponsor stuff that Justin talks about seems really good. I'd like to dip my toes in that, but it's probably not for me yet because I
Mm-hmm.
don't have a big audience.
Okay, good. I'm glad
And
you said that.
so, yeah, I want to bring that up right at the beginning here that this is not, only relevant to people who have 10,000 people on their email list or things like that. Um, there's there's a lot of great stuff in this book. I was thinking about how do you summarize this book. I was going to save this for style and rating, but I'll share it here at the beginning. It's sort of like a creator business masterclass,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah.
which there's a lot of different applications you can get from that, even if you don't consider yourself to be a creator.
Oh, I agree.
So yeah, this confirms my previously held thought that Justin is a super smart and thoughtful guy.
So okay, cool. Let me run through a little bit more of the background. So thank you, because I couldn't remember exactly where the book came from, but so it's Justin Moore, right? We learn early in the book. So we're maybe getting a little bit into the introduction right now, but we'll keep this kind of high level. He basically ran or runs a sponsorship agency. I think he ran. I don't think he does it anymore. But
Correct.
he
He
ran.
used to. He does not
Yeah,
anymore.
so he ran a sponsorship agency where basically he helped creators and brands connect, right, and develop these sponsorship partnerships, if you will. It came out of the fact that his wife was making content, right, and I don't know if he actually says it was YouTube, but it was videos, right. His wife was making video content, and they basically started to get these sponsorship opportunities, and they did it wrong in a bunch of different situations. And he's really, it's awesome that he describes it that way, because he describes how they did it wrong at different times. And he's like, and the funny thing is he kind of makes fun of himself while he's doing it, which makes it even better. But then he describes about how, we made a lot of revenue doing this, and we've developed a model, and then this is the nature of this book is basically I want to share that model with you. So it's like, if you're thinking about reading this book, or if you haven't read it yet and you're trying to figure out whether or not to read it, it's a really good how-to guide. like you said, masterclass on thinking about you as individual player partnering with somebody who wants to get their brand out or get their name out, and like how do you do that. So that's the nature, that's the context of the book. The book is broken into essentially introduction. There are 8 steps in this sponsorship wheel that he describes, and then there's a kind of a motivation, little tiny bit motivation, and then he gives you some success stories. And that's the nature of the entire book. So it's broken down, I think, what seems very logically. Like he just walks you around the 8 steps in the wheel. And without further ado, I think we should just jump right into the introduction.
Let's do it.
Okay, so basically, he's describing how he got into this idea of sponsorships in the introduction. The introduction is called "Becoming a Sponsor Magnet," and he's trying to motivate the idea of, how do you get these? How do you attract these sponsorships, and how do you be a good player in the space? What I think makes the most sense to do here is you combine the introduction, this becoming a sponsor magnet, with the 9 common mistakes, which is essentially kind of like chapter 2. Right? He lists out these 9 common mistakes that prevent landing these sponsorships. And I think if you combine these two and wrap them into one package, what he's really doing is he's really giving you the overview of, like, hey, these are some things to think about when you're thinking about starting into sponsorships and when you're thinking about working with big brands. And what I like that he does here is he talks about both, like, he doesn't actually say any names of brands. Like throughout the entire book, if I'm correct, he doesn't say the name of any of the brands. You can kind of like try to piece them together and be like, oh, I think this would probably have been this company. But he doesn't actually say the name of it. But what I think he does a good job at is he describes big brands and small brands. So like he's saying like, hey, you might be working with a brand that's like a Fortune 500 kind of a situation, or you might be working with just like mom or pop shop down the road who really wants to increase some advertising or increase some of their marketing in a different way. The 9 common mistakes, right? I'll go through them real quick and then I'll turn it to Mike and see what he wants to add in this intro section. Don't aimlessly create. Don't pitch random brands. Don't target giant brands. Don't envy others' deals. Don't work with toxic brands. Don't let your ego control you. Don't badmouth brands. Don't ignore the changing world around you. Don't outsource the business stuff. And what I love about this is, as I'm reading these, I'm thinking, someone did that. Someone did that. Someone did
Yeah.
that. And it might have been Justin and his wife, April, or it might have been somebody he's worked with in the, 1,000+ partnership deals that he's done or sponsorship deals that he's done. So it was like really cool to be like, oh yeah, somebody's done that. Oh yeah, somebody's done that. Oh yeah, somebody's done that. And it brought a lot of credibility, I think, to the book as I was reading it. So that's my general high level, 30,000 foot on the intro and those 9 common mistakes.
Yeah, one of the things I love about this book and Justin in particular is that he's not afraid to share the mistakes that they've made along the way. And I don't know that all of these were made by him. I feel like if he had made these, he would have told us a specific story associated with him making this mistake
Mm-hmm.
instead of something that they noticed when they were working with creators. By the way, he shares a lot of interesting information and statistics about his experience with that that agency, and you kind of can see why he didn't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
It sounds a lot like herding cats, which I get. That's been my experience in the creator world too. Is that a lot of creators are, I don't know. I was gonna use the word flaky. Like I'll make stuff when I feel like it. Fortunately, I feel like it on a regular basis. But if I had to do something by a specific deadline, I'm not sure I've got the systems to actually show up and do that.
Mm-hmm.
And just having to do that at scale, like this is the average creator. They need a little bit more hand holding, a little bit more structure. And to have to manage all that for a bunch of people, it kind of reminds me of the worst parts of the integrator job that I left a couple of
Mm-hmm.
years ago,
Mm-hmm.
but doing that over and over and over again.
Yeah, I mean that makes total sense. What did you think about his sponsorship wheel? So in these first two sections, and it's kind of strange because he doesn't like call them chapter one, chapter two. They're really
Hmm.
the book. How do I say this? The book flows more than that, I think, is the way I would describe it. Because even when you get to like step one, he just calls it step one pitch, right? And then he
Yep.
goes from there. So it doesn't lay out like a normal book where it's chapter one and it's more formal. But what did you think about the sponsorship wheel?
Well, I like this a lot. I like this framework, and I like the wheel and the 8 different steps that he has here. When I first came across it, I thought 8 steps, that's too many.
Okay.
But then when you understand what he's trying to do with this, it's necessary, I think.
Hmm.
At least if you're going to do it the right way. Side note, when I was at Craft and Commerce this last year, I met a lady named Charlotte who basically what she does is she works with people to create signature frameworks. I totally want to work with her at some point when I have the funds to do so. She did the framework for Ali Abdal, I believe, for Feel Good Productivity. She also worked with Justin on this sponsorship wheel. So basically, what she does is she takes the bones of what you've got and the rough system that you have in place, and then creates a very visual framework like this that is much easier to grok for the
Wow.
average person who reads a book like this.
That
Is that not an incredible value
Well,
proposition?
and that's really interesting because as I'm reading this, I'm thinking, man, the visuals are effective in this book, right? So like the fact that there
Yeah.
was this framework, that it's cool to know that he actually worked with somebody who supported that process. I didn't know that.
So I don't know that she did all the visuals. This is different than just like an illustrator or somebody who is creating the visual identities attached with a book like this, because there are a lot of visuals that he shares throughout the chapters. I don't think that's what she worked on. I think what she worked on was she took Justin's whole system and she packaged it up into a single visual where you can look at it and be like, yes, that is the sponsorship wheel, because Justin's thing is the sponsorship wizard,
Hmm.
right? Or is it creator
Creator
wizard?
wizard, creator wizard.
Creator wizard, yeah. But he basically has like cohorts and things that he leads where he helps people implement this and actually get sponsorships. There's a conference that he hosts in February or March, and it's expensive and it's during the school year, so you probably can't go. But when I heard it announced again for next year, I was like, oh, Corey, you and I should totally go to this. It's in San Antonio. It's called the Sponsor Games, and literally it's like a 2 day crash course in this where people will walk through all the different steps of this, and then at the end they have the pitch that they're going to share with the brands in order to get their dream sponsorship, that sort of thing, which I think is such a cool idea, and it gives such tangible value to the people who attend. It's not just information that you collect and like, oh well, I'm going to apply this someday. You walk out of there with the pitch ready to go,
So
and then they award winners and stuff.
So I just got really distracted because I went and I did the wrong thing that you should do when you're recording a podcast, and I looked up sponsor games and I was like, oh man, this looks fun. Like this actually looks really, really fun. Oh wow, so it's in March. Yeah, that looks really cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to go to that this year. I wanted to go last year. We ended up having a family trip over the dates of the conference. I'm gonna try to work around it this time because I heard great things from people who were there, and yeah, I mean, like that's where I'm at with my creator
Yeah.
business. I feel like if I could actually get decent sponsorships, not just, well, you've got 10,000 subscribers and you get this many views, so make us 3 videos and we'll pay you $100 each.
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
which if you take the standard approach, the rate card sort of approach, the number of downloads for your podcast episode, like you got to have an insanely big
Yeah.
audience in order to make any money that way. So Justin's whole method here is perfect for people who are kind of like on the cusp, like I am. I can make some money that way, but I can't make real money, and he's showing you a different way to do it basically.
Yep. All right. So we talked about this sponsorship wheel. I strongly encourage you, to go take a look at that. You can find it, just by searching the sponsor wheel, and it breaks down into basically what the next 8 chapters of the book are. Right. So it's pitch, negotiate, contract, concept, produce, feedback, publish, and analyze. And what he's going to do is he's then going to walk us through each of these steps, and he's going to talk about essentially what should you be thinking about around your pitch, what are common pitfalls that people think about around your pitch. He's going to give examples of, this is a pitch that went well, this is a pitch that went poorly, right? These are mistakes we made, when we were helping folks pitch. And like what I really love about this is I've I mean, I've probably not really done sponsorships or tried to get sponsorships in the way that he's describing them ever in my life, but it made complete sense to me. It was like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense, why you would do it this way versus that way. The other thing is, I think he calls out the most common flaws, or the most common, like, you would think this would work, or you're probably thinking this is how you would approach this. And he calls that out, and he's like, let me tell you the other way, or like the way to not have that happen. So let's go into pitch. He's gonna come. Okay, do you have something to add, or are you good? Okay.
Nope.
So we go into pitch, and basically he's describing the idea of, I guess one of the counters he comes out with quickly is the idea that brands will come to you. Oh, I've built this channel and I've got these followers, and oh, come on, brands, like, if you build it, they will come and like come. And he's like, no. You still are going to have to go out and tell people about what you do and what value you can add to them. So this is an active process. And he does an example with bees, and the fact that there are still scout bees that go out. Even when they found a source, there are still other scout bees that are going to go out and do it, which I think is a really cool kind of metaphor of what you need to be doing. The other one is, he's going to throw in some additional frameworks throughout this book. So we get our first additional framework here in chapter 1. It's called ROPE. So he says your pitch needs to be relevant, R, organic, O, it needs to show proof, P, and then it needs to be easy to execute, E. And basically, if you can make the pitch that way, you're much more likely to land that sponsorship deal. I think one of the hard things, Mike, so you're going to have to help me, like, as we talk about this. I feel like there is a lot of really good information packed into this book, right? Like like
So much.
it's a very dense book that is at the same time incredibly easy to read, right? So I don't want to get to style and rating yet, but it's like there's so much here that's like actionable and takeaway. Like, you can do a takeaway right now. This rope framework is one that makes complete sense to me. The other one in this chapter, and I promise I'll give you a chance here in a second, but the other one in this chapter is, he actually acknowledges, like, hey, if you're going after a big brand, here are some things to think about. If you're going after a medium-sized brand, here are some things to think about. And it's like, okay, if I combine rope with this subcategory of brand, I can't help but feel like I'm 90% of the way to at least getting a response, right? At least having somebody hear the thing that I'm trying to put out there to them. And it's like, that's a huge win, because you're not just floating out on an iceberg, just praying somebody's going to find you. I'll get off my soapbox now, but it's like, I think it's awesome. I mean, I absolutely think this first chapter is just incredible.
Yeah, so there's a lot to like about Justin's style here. So you mentioned the bees. That was an interesting metaphor, I'll say, for essentially the 80-20 principle, because he talks about exploit versus explore. 80% of your time you want to stick with what works, 20% of the time you want to find new opportunities. And you can apply that to sponsorships. You can apply that to just your general workday.
Yep.
You can apply that just about anywhere, but it's packaged in an interesting way that you have never heard before. Guaranteed.
I agree.
We've read so many productivity books. We've heard about the 80-20 principle hundreds of times, probably. Not in this way, though. And then he follows that up with not only the framework, which there's lots of these frameworks. Sometimes, by the way, with books like this where there's lots of frameworks, it feels like, oh, this just keeps getting more and more complicated. There was a book that we read that I actually felt that way about. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was a Richie Norton book, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
But that you don't get that with this, because they're all self-contained into, this is, step 1, pitch. But there's lots of stuff that I jotted down in my mind map for this that is just like brilliant business advice that you don't need to know all the reasons why. All you need to know is that you need to make your pitch about them, not about you. All you need to know is that email is the best way to send your pitch. All you need to know is that you should send that email on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the nerd in me wants to get into, well, why do you say that, Justin? But then for somebody who is a creator who is trying to get sponsorships, you don't have, in addition to everything else that you have to do, you don't have extra time
Mm-hmm.
to figure out why I should do what he's telling me to do. Really, there just needs to be the proof that this is the person who really knows what they're talking about. And I feel like Justin has firmly established himself as
Yeah.
the person who knows what he's talking about when it comes to getting sponsorships. And then he gives you all of the details that you could possibly need, all the specifics to do this the right way, and absolutely zero filler.
And this is one of those books. So I have to, I have to air my bias here. I get really annoyed when they link you to the extra resources, which
Yeah.
based on the books that we've read before. And again, I get it. I understand the way this works. We're trying to build an email list. So therefore, what am I going to do? I'm going to link you those things. I'm going to then build the email list through the fact that you downloaded my resources. But in this situation, I was like, man, I really want those resources. Like these resources seem really relevant and they seem really actionable, and I really want those resources. So it's one of those areas where, and here's my key point in when I say this, it's an easy choice in my mind to give that address because of, or my email address, because of the value I'm going to get back on this. Like if there is an example of a situation where I do not feel like I'm being exploited or taken advantage of, like the value add seems so much greater for what he's giving compared to what I am, that it's worth being on that email list. Where there's been other books in the past where I've like, really, like that's not,
Yeah.
I mean, come on, like that's not really a resource. I'm not really gonna, go out there on that one.
So let me ask you a question, because I actually did not go download the resources, but there is the call to action at the end of every chapter.
Mm-hmm.
However, I did notice that the URLs are all different.
Mm-hmm.
So do they all go to the same place and you get like a big toolkit, or are there specific resources that each one of those
I don't
links?
know the answer to that because of my week, right? Like my one of my action items from this is actually to go back and click those links and go and get his resources, just because I didn't
Yeah.
have time. I didn't have time to do it this week.
Okay. My thought is, or my expectation is that those are all just based on how he wrote the book. Those are going to be the resources that are relevant for the step that you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are at step one and you're sharing stuff that people should be looking at when they get to step eight, they're going to get confused and it's going to
Yeah.
cause them to not take action. So that's my guess as to how it's packaged there, which I think is brilliant, by the way. And it creates that feeling that you were just describing. Oh, well, they want my email address. It's like, no, actually, this seems like you have some valuable stuff that could be useful to me right now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, let's move on to step two. Step two is negotiate. And in this situation, basically, he's trying to say like, hey, negotiation is part of this process, and you got to think about it. He describes another framework in here. He calls it the ARC framework, which is awareness, repurposing, and conversion. So he said, in order to properly negotiate, you need to understand where the brand is coming from. Are they trying to increase awareness? Are they trying to repurpose material? Or are they trying to convert people into sales? What's interesting about this is I hadn't really thought about repurposing material. Like for some reason, like creators making content that I can then chop that up and repurpose it into my own thing as a brand, that was a novel concept to me. I know I've seen it done before, but I just had never thought about like, oh yeah, that's actually what they might want to do with that. And basically what he gets at in this first situation is um, essentially standard pricing messes you up. Like when you're negotiating, if you fix too hard early and say this is my price and blah 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 blah, he said no, everything is a custom deal, right? And we want to think about how everything is a custom deal. Now he then goes and he describes things like, is it a competitive, is it a cost plus, is it dynamic, is it merit based? He goes through the different phases of your pricing. So phase one is competitive pricing, phase two is cost plus pricing, phase three is dynamic pricing, right? And he gets into these, then he gives you kind of examples of how he's used these pricing strategies in different contexts, and kind of how they've impacted the negotiation process, right? So again, in
Mm-hmm.
this situation, like he's not telling you, and what I think is really really cool is he's not telling you this is the way you do it. He's saying, here is the environment you're playing in. Negotiations happen like this, and you got to think about both sides, and it's not this like maybe this is too strong of a way to put it. It's not this cutthroat businessy thing. It's like, hey, remember, there's people on the other side of this. And he does this like
Yep.
throughout these steps. He's like, remember, there's people on the other side of this. So there are times when you gotta put your feet in the ground, and you gotta say, no, I'm not gonna budge on this one. He goes, but those are very, very few. And then there's a lot of times where you're just gonna be like, yeah, okay, this isn't what the contract said, but I'm willing to give on this one because my goal is the next one, right? We're gonna do this one, and I want another one, and I want another one, and I want to show you
Yeah.
that I'm a human to work with. And I think this is just such a different mindset when it comes to negotiation. Negotiation says, I need to win, and he describes it, if I'm remembering correctly, as a win-win-win.
Yep.
And basically, it's you win, the brand wins, and your audience wins. And I think
Exactly.
that is a really cool way to frame negotiation.
Yeah, and that is sounds simple, but if I can tell you, as a creator who stumbles across that win-win-win in the Venn diagram that he shares, it also feels profound because it's like, oh yeah, that makes all this tension that I'm feeling as I'm getting these emails from brands that want to collaborate and I don't really want to collaborate with them and I don't really know why. It's like, oh, you just hit the nail on the head. Like this visually represents why I don't feel like this is going to work, because even if we could figure out a way where it's worth it for me to make money from it, this isn't something my fans would really
Uh-huh.
enjoy.
Uh-huh.
So lots of stuff like that. It's just like so it's so brilliantly simple. And this chapter in particular, I feel like this is the reason why I say this is a business masterclass in a book, because there's so much stuff in here which I have studied and I have gone through the courses. I even went to business school, so like I'm getting all these flashbacks of all these other places that I've heard all this stuff. But he lays it forward in such a simple way where it's easy for anybody to understand. That's the thing. Like competitive pricing, cost plus pricing, dynamic pricing, merit based pricing. I've heard all those terms before. I know generally what those are. I could not have told you very succinctly what the pros and cons were with each of
Uh-huh.
them
Uh-huh.
in 5 minutes, like he does in in this section. And the other thing that I really liked about this is he gets into ways to measure this. He gives you exact numbers that you should use as the basis for pricing for your on the campaign goals for the awareness, the repurposing, the conversion, where it's 10 cents if it's awareness, or it's 0.65 cents for repurposing. And he gives you the formulas: AVV, which is views from the last 10 videos divided by 10. Content only formula, you use AVV times CPV, right? And if you're going to do an exclusivity thing, you add an additional 10% of the base for
Yep.
each of the 30 days. I don't want to give everything away here because there really is some great stuff. And if you can't tell already, like I'm a fan of this book, you should totally go buy it.
Mm-hmm.
But
I agree.
but yeah, this section in the mind node is like half of what I've got. There's so much in here, and negotiating isn't something that people typically think about. They think about, well, business is just, I got to price my thing right and I got to do paid ads on the right platforms. Like, no, there's communication involved here.
Uh-huh.
You have to frame it the right way. You have to present it the right way. When you do that, that's when you can actually get the exponential results compared to the flat rate, send me your rate card type of stuff. I get those all the time from very small companies. I just made this app. I like your channel. I want 3 exclusive videos. What's your rate card? I never respond to those
Yeah.
because it's not a win-win-win. I've never heard of these things before. I'm not going to recommend it to my audience unless I really think it's awesome, like I did with Morgan back in the day. And then the other thing is, like, I don't even know what to tell them in terms of pricing. So I feel like next time I get one of those, I got to make sure that it really is a win-win-win. But then I'm totally going to steal this. I'm
Yeah.
totally going to apply
Yeah.
this, and we'll see where it goes. But I guarantee, even if it's oh, sorry, it's way out of our budget range. Not just the budget, but the budget range. It's one of the things he hits on in this
Mm-hmm.
section.
Mm-hmm.
At least I'm not wasting my time going back and forth
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. I mean, Mike said it best, right? Like his mind map this is a huge section of his mind map. This is a huge section of my notes too. This is one of those. I mean, he talks about everything from deliverables, usage rights, and exclusivity, and how that impacts things. He talks about KPIs. He talks about the relay framework. right? Which is reflect, educate, listen. I'm trying to remember them all. Listen, what's A? I'm blanking on
Adjust.
adjust and then yield, right? Like, so he's got all these different things, but it doesn't feel like, like we've read books before where it feels like listicles, right? And they're just constantly throwing like these lists at you and you're like, ah, and you kind of get bored with them. This felt like, oh, that actually makes sense. And that's a way for me to remember what I need to do here and how to unpack this. I just think I think he does a really good job at helping you process a lot of stuff that I would say probably most people are not comfortable with, right? The negotiation
Yep.
phase
Yep.
is like an uncomfortable thing that you do, but you got to do it, and that's part of the process. Okay.
You got to do it. Exactly. Now, one other thing with this particular section, but it applies to this book as a whole. I remember, I don't remember how long ago, but I remember coming across Tiago Forte talking about the when after he had launched his Building a Second Brain book, which I really enjoyed. What that did in terms of cannibalizing sales of the Building a Second Brain cohort that
Mm-hmm.
he
Mm-hmm.
was leading. The reason for that, in my opinion, is that when people understand the frameworks there, they're going to go do them on their own. Now, if you were to take that approach with Justin in this book, he would be like, great, I don't have to be involved. I'm so happy that this is working for you now.
Uh-huh.
But there is a large number of people who, even if they know exactly what to do, they're going to be like, people, I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Or you got to give me the exact scripts, and you got to force me to get on the phone and make the calls. Go back to like my sales days, the dialing for dollars. I always hated doing that, but sometimes you had to have somebody who's like, you got to make 100 calls today.
Yeah.
So if you are trying to decide between like the book and the cohort, I think it's going to be very, very clear what Justin's like his coaching and the cohorts that he does for this stuff, which is really expensive compared to the books, like $1,500. I think he's even at one like $3,000 for the right person who just needs a little bit of an extra push
Mm-hmm.
from someone who really knows what they're doing to give them specific advice in specific situations. This can be the thing that pours gas on the fire
Yep.
for your business and is totally worth it. For everybody else, there's still lots that you can
Yeah.
glean from this book. So it's totally worth the $20-$30 that you would spend on it.
I think the best analogy that I can make to what you just described is there are people who go to the gym and they just need to understand, like, here's my routine, here's my lifts, I know how to do all the lifts, and I'm going to go to the gym. Then there's people who go, I could do that, but I'd really like a trainer. Like, I really think a trainer would be great. And like this, it's the same camp here. Like, I think you have those two different worlds, and you know which one you are. Like,
Yeah.
you know internally which one you are. And I think I actually am kind of shocked that he put this much into a book. But
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. I'm not, because I think this is not two different ideal customers. This is the
yeah,
same ideal customer at different points in their
in their
journey.
journey, yeah,
So by over delivering, in my opinion, so much value in the book, you are significantly increasing the chances that this person gets to the point where they are qualified for the core offer, where you work closely with them. And I think that's brilliant and it's rare.
yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. All right, let's move the contract. Right, so we went from basically negotiating. Now we've actually got somebody on board. They're going to come in and we're going to make a contract. And I thought there were some hilarious stories in this one because he goes through this section where he describes and he's like, are you seeing the problem now? Right? Like, dear reader, like, do you like, oh, we were okay with it. It was fine. Everything's good. We don't need a contract. And then he's like, do you see what's going to happen here? It's like foreshadowing. And I just thought that
Mm-hmm.
was like a really funny way to outline this chapter. But basically, I would say, he sums this up and says, my sincerest advice and one of the best investments you can make in yourself and your business is to hire a lawyer and create a boilerplate contract template for you. And he even goes as far as to say, like, 90%, 95% of that contract will be the same every time. And then you'll adjust the scope of work right? And it's like, it just makes sense to do this up front. don't mess around with it. Trust me from all my past experience, don't mess around with this. So it's like I don't actually have a lot of notes on this section because like the message was so clear and so concise that it was basically like, hey, listen, have a contract. Don't go into this without a contract. And I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so as a business major and an independent creator who has worked with somebody to get the boilerplate template, there's still lots of stuff that I got from this particular
Yeah.
chapter. Little things which you don't even realize that this is a thorn in your side until he names it. So he actually says, for example, sign all your contracts as whatever LLC, FSO, the person, because when you're talking about a personal brand, you are the person. That is who they want on the in the content that you're going to be creating. But a lot of creators that I know, they don't have a what is it, a sole proprietorship, because they have their own separate media company set up as either an S corp or an LLC because of the limited liability. It's
Mm-hmm,
just
mm-hmm,
it's smart. That's one of the things that's on my list for my kids as they get older. And Toby does the editing for Bookworm and Intentional Family. I want to just like drill this entrepreneurship stuff into them. Not that they have to run their own business necessarily, but just they understand how this works. So when they get older, I'll help them set up their own LLCs.
mm-hmm.
When they turn 18 and they decide that they want to, continue this side hustle or whatever. And that's the kind of stuff where like you don't even really think about it. And then if you've got somebody who actually knows what to point out ahead of time, you're like, oh, that's really helpful. Thank you for saving me a whole lot of time and effort. And this whole section is like point after point after point after point like
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
that.
Yep. And just for those of you who didn't know, because I didn't know, when is the FSO is it's for services of, right? So
Yes, yes.
you're saying it's in the legal entity of the company, but it's the services of that individual or the services of those people that are
Right.
producing the content. Which that kind of stuff, I mean, it's golden to learn it from somebody else who messed it up and not have to learn it on your own. I
Well,
mean,
see, it's not even necessarily messed up, but what it does is it streamlines the whole process. Because I can tell you, my whole thing is professional media group. So because I make content, I make videos, I make podcasts, and so that way the accountant doesn't ask questions at the end of the year. It's like, oh, this is part of the content that you make. Okay, that's revenue that's associated
mm-hmm,
with that. But if you're gonna do business with a brand and you sign the contract, professional media group, wait a minute. We want to work with Mike Schmitz. We don't want to
mm-hmm.
work with his agency.
Yep, yep,
So that eliminates a whole bunch of back and forth and a whole bunch of extra
yeah,
discussions, and it's not something that you would typically think of.
yep. All right, great. Ready to move to step 4? Creator, or sorry, concept.
Let's do it.
All right, so in the next step, we're actually going to start talking about the concept. So we still, if you're thinking about this from a relationship standpoint, you still haven't created any content yet, right? You're still in the process of figuring out what to do before you create it. And his take here would be basically you want to create this creative brief, a 1 to 2 page document that says this is what I'm going to do, right? This is the concept. This is the thing I'm thinking of. And the reason why is because if you do this here and you do this well, you don't then produce content that when it goes through the review process, they go, wait, whoa, 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 hold on. You can't do
Yeah.
that thing. If I'm remembering correctly, so Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the one where he had to reshoot one because he put like the pictures of the product with food, and the company came back and said, no, that product can't be anywhere near food. Or he gives another
Yeah.
example of like there were little kids in the video and they're like, hey, it's actually illegal for us to do kids near this product for XYZ reason. And he's saying that
Yeah.
you avoid 99% of those issues if you submit the concept and you tell the brand what you're going to do and have them give you feedback prior to you actually producing the content.
Yeah, so I haven't had a bad situation with this, but I definitely have had the fear of the bad situation.
Mm-hmm,
So I really
mm-hmm.
appreciated this section.
Yeah.
The one, actually, I think I can think of two successful partnerships that I've done. The one I'll share about here was the Morgan sponsorship where I did a sponsored video. They sponsored my newsletter. It was easy because I'm a big fan of the product.
Hmm.
But they were approaching this the right way, and I had no idea what in the world I was doing. So I got the contract, and there's some scary language in there, like you're going to do a round of revisions. What? So I might have to redo the whole thing. I have ignored most sponsorships just because it's not worth the hassle for me thinking about that sort of stuff. But for whatever reason, I decided to do it with Morgan, and it turned out great because I produced the content, shared it with them beforehand, and they said this is absolutely perfect. We don't need any revisions. But in the back of my mind, that kept me up at night. It's like, oh, they're gonna ask for this back. And Justin's point here is, look, you can spend an extra 30 minutes up front and create this in this specific way,
Yeah.
and it's gonna save you. It could potentially save you a whole day on the back end. It's totally worth it.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, I don't really have a ton more to add to this one idea other than tell them about your concept before you actually start creating the material. We go to now step 5. Now it's time to produce, right? And basically, he's saying stick to the approved concept, right? Like when you start making content, make the content you said you were going to make. If something happens, you encounter a roadblock, be a professional and communicate, like be proactive. And this is where I said it before. It feels very authentic in terms of I've worked with all these people and oh, okay, here's another part of this that he says explicitly. He basically is like the bar is low. And he even says it like at different
Yeah.
times. He's like the bar is in the basement. He's like so it's not like you have to hit this like super achieving bar, which I think is so funny for him to call out so directly that it's like if you have proactive communication and you said, "Hey, we hit this roadblock. Like let's work a way to solve this." You're better than X% of all creators because most of them just don't say anything and they just let it happen.
So sad.
And then he talks about when you're producing, there's a couple different audiences or a couple different groups that you don't want to upset. Your audience and the government, he goes, because that basically gets you into trouble, more trouble than other things. Whether or not you need to acknowledge the sponsorship or not acknowledge the sponsorship, so he's really giving again these practical ideas. Do you know exactly the product that you're putting forth or that you're going to talk about in your content? Basically, he's just given that good overview of these are the things to do when you produce your content and you're dealing with a sponsorship.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot jotted down in this particular chapter, but there is one thing that I think is worth double clicking on here. Always disclose your relationship with the brand, no exception. So he gives you specific ways on how to do this, depending on the type of partnership that it is, which I really appreciated. But this right here, this is something that has always been a little bit of a struggle for me. And I think one of the reasons why I've shied away from sponsorships is that I've had this limiting belief in my head where sponsorships are simply companies that throw enough money at people that they say yes and they're gonna make stuff. And there are certain creators where you can totally tell, yeah, they don't really love this thing. They just got enough money. I guess one example would be my kids are into Dude Perfect, so every once in a while they'll have the ads for like the mobile games that
Hmm.
they're really into. I'm like, you guys aren't really into this gem matching game that I've never heard of.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Stuff like that I want to avoid. But again, it's easy to do that if you have that win-win-win framework in the back of your head. And so just that general rule, always disclose your relationship. Now it's no longer, well, should I do this or not? Are people expecting me to do this? It's just giving me the permission. And I feel like I've been doing this. Like when I did the Morgan video, I made it clear it was a sponsored video. You got to check the box, whatever. But I also have just in conversation lately since reading this book, people ask me about Morgan specifically. I had a phone call the other day and they're asking about it. I was like, okay, so full disclosure, they gave me access to their product when I made that video. But I would totally buy it, and I probably will in January when my Fantastical subscription runs up, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
So just being authentic
Yeah.
like that. If you really are partnering with things with brands that are going to be a a win for your audience, you don't have to be shy about
Yeah.
saying, yeah, this is a totally a sponsorship. This is a paid partnership.
Well, and I don't know about
Nobody cares as long as they get something out of it.
that's what I was thinking too. Like, I don't care. I actually am interested in your opinion on XYZ, right? Like, oh, Mike,
Yeah,
tell me your opinion on this new product that just came out, because I'm probably trying to figure it out. If it's close and it's relevant, I'm probably already trying to figure it out on my own. And you giving me your opinion helps me figure that out, right? Like, so
yeah,
I don't see a problem with that at all. There are very few times when a creator comes and says, "Hey, this is a sponsored thing," where I go, "Ugh," and like I think, like, "Ugh, that's gross." I'm more like, "Oh, okay, cool," like they like that product, and let's see the value of it. But I can tell you that I think this is a big difference, and I kind of wish Justin would have done this, and maybe he did, and I didn't gather it, but I kind of wish he would have done it in a stronger way. The difference between sponsorships and ads, right? Like,
sure.
and like, what is the exact difference there? Because in my head, there's a difference there. If I'm running an ad on my content, my goal is nothing more like somebody's told me just say this thing. Like, that's the way I feel about it. If I'm doing a sponsorship, I feel like I'm more invested in that. And I don't know if that's accurate or not. So you might be able to correct me here. But it's like, I feel like there's a difference there. Like, I feel like there's a difference between an ad and a sponsorship.
I mean, technically there probably is, but in terms of a creator who is going to, I'm just going to say sponsorships because that's how he's framing the deals that you would get with these companies. And they may want you to just say verbatim these words in your content. I think those are still, I don't know. I still think like they fall in the same bucket because when I think of ads, I think of like television
Yeah.
commercials. Uh, I guess technically for like the Focus podcast, for example, and even occasionally on Bookworm, we have ads, quote unquote, for sponsors. But those ads are always companies that I've vetted their products before I'm going to show up and talk about them. Most of them require some personal experience, which is interesting, by the way, because not every sponsor will actually give you the personal experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, how am I going to talk about personal experience if you're not going to give me the product? But whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that basically, however, I would be expressing support for a brand or a product in the type of stuff that I make. I recognize that I'm putting my stamp of approval on that as the individual creator, the personality, and it's not just, oh well, somebody booked this time slot on the TV schedule.
Yeah, yeah, because that is, I guess, a distinction that was coming into my head as I was listening to you talk. Is there are these slots, and we don't really care who we fill the slot with. We just want somebody to pay for that slot. And whereas a sponsorship is different than that. Like, I actually want to have that
Yes.
win-win-win. Yeah, so that makes sense to me. And like some of them, I think can overlap more, but then there is that distinction between those.
Yep.
All right, so let's roll on to step 6. And again, remember, we're working through this sponsor wheel or sponsorship wheel. So step 6 is feedback, and he calls out the fact that, hey, feedback can be hard. So be careful, right? Remember that, like, really, they're not trying to attack you. They have a vision in their head, and you either hit their vision or you didn't, or they need to make this tweak. That way, they hit the vision that they wanted to do. He basically says, think about whether or not you can do something, and he throws the time in there in less than 30 minutes. Like, he's like,
I love that.
yeah, it's like, if you can fix this in less than 30 minutes, just do it. He's like, don't push back, don't complain whether they're right or sorry, whether they're wrong and you're right. Whether it's in the contract or not. He's like, if you can hit it in 30 minutes, just do it. Because what I love about this, and he talks about this in the very beginning of the book, he's playing the long game. And you could tell he's playing the long game. Yes, this sponsorship is important. he's not ever saying that it's not important, but really what he's going after is the next sponsorship and the next sponsorship. And he's going after building that reputation of you are a creator that somebody wants to work with, and getting that reputation of being the creator that's good to work with, that establishes, that good relationship. And I just think I think that's a really wise way to do this. Basically, he then comes in and he said that there's a bunch of things that you should think about, right? And he gives you through like the details of it. So here's a simple framework: do it for free if, and then he gives you the details of when you would do it for free. If there's a chance of repeat business, if there's all these other things. So what I'm trying not to do, is, as you're listening to this, I'm trying not to tell you all the cool things that he says, because it's going to not come across nearly as well as he does it in the book. What I would say is as you're thinking about feedback, whether it's with a sponsorship or just in general, these are really cool principles to think about, and really wise principles, I think, to think about.
Yeah, the 30 minutes or less, I feel like that's a great piece of advice, because I've struggled with this, where not I don't think with sponsorships that I've done as an independent creator, but I could definitely think about creative projects that I've done for people in the past, where you spend all this time getting clear on everything ahead of time. Okay, this is exactly what I'm going to deliver. And then, oh, we've got a new version and I actually want you to do this now too.
Yep.
And it's like, my natural response to that is, heck no, that's not what we agreed upon. I ain't doing it. And Justin shares great criteria for deciding whether it's worth doing. And I feel like for me personally, just asking that question at the very beginning, is there a way I can do what they're asking in less
Mm-hmm.
than 30 minutes? That makes it instantly much less repulsive to me.
Yep. Yep.
And preserves ultimately the long-term relationship. So that's the right approach for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to actually publish our stuff. And he gives some very, very practical tips around publishing. So this is step 7. He basically and I wouldn't have thought about this. And this is he's basically like, be careful on the weekend, because you're working for a brand and the brand probably doesn't work on the weekend. So if something goes wrong, there's nobody there to fix the problem. And it was like, oh, that actually makes a ton of sense. Like, I wouldn't have thought about this had you not doing that. Had you not told us this. But basically, the way I can describe this publishing chapter is, cross your T's and dot your I's. And cross your T's and dot your I's. And then once you've crossed your T's and dotted your I's, cross your T's and dot your I's again. Because he's essentially, he doesn't necessarily say it this strongly, but it's like, you only get one shot to do it right the first time. Do it right the first time. And again, you get this idea that he has worked with people who ready, shoot, aim, right? And like, that's just the way they are. And they fly off the handle and they publish the stuff, and then they go, oh, I didn't check the link. The link didn't work. Oh, why wouldn't the brand have sent me the right link? And they're maybe on like a commission model. And well, now you've lost all your commission because the link didn't work and people aren't going to go back a second time. So it's like these really practical, think through this really hard kind of ideas. And again, I just think it's really wise stuff.
Very, very practical, and yes, very wise stuff. So let me just share an example with the focus ads. So we get those ads, we record them, we hand everything off to the editor. He gives everything back, and then I always double check the audio files, and I upload them, and we publish on the Tuesdays that Focus is published. And it doesn't happen frequently, but maybe once every couple of months, one of those sponsors has not activated the URL by the time I check it the day that we're going to publish. Now, fortunately for Relay, there's somebody whose full-time job is sales and has direct contact to the people at those brands. So I say, hey, Carrie, this link isn't live. Oh, thanks for letting me know. And she pings them, and within a couple of hours, it's up there. But yeah, if you have to do that yourself, you definitely want the checklists.
Yeah.
That's one of my action items from this, by the way, is to make checklists for everything.
Well, and this is actually one of the slightly overwhelming aspects of this book. Again, I was going to get to this in style already. It's one of the overwhelming. It's like, man, there's a lot of stuff to do here with
There
sponsorships.
is a lot.
Like
Yeah.
holy cow, like this is it's a job in itself, but at the same time, it's potentially what pays for you to make, to be the creator. So it makes sense that it would be a valuable thing to do, but I could quickly and easily see how you need an individual who is responsible for making sure all of this stuff gets done and gets done well. That way, your personal brand or your organization's brand doesn't take a hit. So okay,
But
so
but even if you have an individual who manages all this stuff, it doesn't do anything if you don't have the systems in place
mhm,
for them to execute it. So I feel like even if you are an individual and you get to the point where, oh, this is a lot, that's actually kind of the intention.
yeah,
These are all the places you need the systems. And then if you're going to create the systems and work these systems, yeah, maybe you can't keep up with it all yourself. And you got to figure out when is the right time to get somebody in to help you with this. But if you understand the frameworks that he shares in each one of these chapters and you build those, which I think go a long way in helping you build the right kinds of systems that you could delegate this effectively, it's going to make that eventual delegation much more effective.
yeah. Okay, so let's go to step 8. Step 8 is analyze. This is the last step in our wheel. Basically, he's going to say, okay, now you've done the thing. You need to be, again, proactive, and you need to send what's called a post-campaign report. And he said, this report isn't necessarily part of what you've contractually agreed to do. This is the one that basically is, hey, look how good of a job I did, or look how proactive I am, or don't you want to work with me again? And it sends that underlying message of this is why you want to work with me again. This is why you want me to be a repeat, why you want to be a repeat sponsor for me. So he gets into this whole detail about this post campaign report and what should be included into it. He says, think of your post campaign report as your private elevator. Again, this is the reference to from the basement, which where the bar is really, really low, the whole way up to the penthouse, where this ties into this, and like I love kind of how he wraps it up to where you're this sponsor magnet. That if you're doing these 8 steps, you're attracting sponsors not only to you, you're attracting them to come back to you and to come back to you and to come back to
Yep.
you. He throws a Nelson Mandela quote in here that I just absolutely love. I never lose. I either win or learn. And it's like,
Yeah.
what a great way to think about life. It's like, oh yeah, like, yeah. I mean, could you like, can you wordsmith it, or can you nitpick it and say, oh, well, really, you're losing, and you're just thinking about it as learning. Yeah, sure, but that's a great way to think about it. It's like, oh, okay, in this situation, I learned a lot, and I
Yep.
didn't hit it out of the park, but I learned a lot in this endeavor. There's another one that I'm blanking on here, but I'll remember it probably at some point. But there was another key point that he makes in this analyze step. Mike, what do you have while I'm trying to rack my brain on that one?
Well, he gives you some great advice for creating case studies, which is something that I have struggled with in the past. So I have a bunch of testimonials for a lot of my products, but I have a hard time creating case studies. So I've kind of done some research into how to make them, and I feel like the stuff that he shares in the one specific section in this chapter is better than a lot of the stuff that I've found online.
Yeah.
He's got another framework too for reaching out to brands and following up. Pivot 2 to 3 weeks after the submission. Follow up with that another week or two later. I forgot to mention, and then there's the novelty where you're pitching another idea 2 to 4 weeks after that. One more try 4 to 8 weeks after that, and then you let it sit for several months. Time is the last one there. He's got a checklist for the post campaign report, which I think is great. Because one of the things that could keep you from putting this together is, well, I don't know what to put in
Yeah.
here. So
Yep.
he gives you the bones of it. I mean, yeah, this is a really important chapter for not just getting the sponsorship deals, but as you mentioned, the whole idea of the magnet being able to attract future sponsors. This is the thing that keeps that wheel spinning.
Yeah. Okay. So you got it to it. It was that pin it thing, where it's that timeline for when you should follow up with people. And what I like about this is it's very procedural. It's very like do this and then set an alarm and do this and then set or a calendar note and then do this and then do this and do this. And I think I actually think, Mike, this might be a little bit of a bold statement to make about something I know very little about. I think this is the most important step in the process. I I
Probably,
I,
yeah.
I think you can do all other 7 steps really, really well, and it doesn't create that, as that flywheel effect, like you like to say, right? Whereas if you do this last step and you wrap it up well, you follow up well, it'll like not automatically, but you have a much higher likelihood of launching into that next round and then launching into
Yep.
that next
Yep.
round. But I think this is also the easiest step to be like, nah, we're good. Successful campaign. Everybody's happy. We're not
Yeah.
like they're just gonna come back. Like they're gonna automatically come back. How could they not? It was such a good thing. And I think this ties into the idea that I don't mean this in a mean way, but like people are fickle in terms of like what they're doing. And like, okay, that was a successful campaign. What's our next one? What's our next one? What's
Yep.
our next one?
Yep.
But you have to stay on their radar, not in an annoying way, but in a realistic way of like, hey, remember that deal we did? Or remember that campaign we ran? It was great, right? Let's do
Yep.
another one. And
Right.
I found this to be true, in the LLC work that I do. It's like if I don't stay on people's radar, they're off doing other things that are also really good, and they forget about me. So it's like,
Yep.
how do I stay on their radar? So I think this is a really, really important step.
Yeah. So you mentioned the flywheel stuff. I'm actually in Nathan Barry's Creator Flywheels course. And one of the things that he talks about in there is kind of like three different phases of business system development, where the first step is you're just doing the things that need to get done one off as they happen. The second step is you create linear processes for things. And then the third step is you create these flywheels,
Mm-hmm.
which actually build momentum the more that you work them. So the difference here between a linear process and that flywheel, I think, is what Nathan would call a loop closer. So it's that last step which creates the momentum for to repeat the process again. So the linear process that Justin outlines here, I feel like ends with step 7. That's the publish step.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's the majority of the work here. But you're right, that 8th step, what that does is the flywheel step. We put in all this effort. Why not just do it again easier next time?
Yeah.
Who's up for round
Yeah,
2?
who's up for round two, right? And let me show you all the stuff you would need to make that decision, and that's the post campaign report. And I just think it's great. Like I think it's great.
Yep.
Okay, affirmations and next steps isn't really a chapter; it's 2 pages, and basically it's the very short summary of this is what I just told you, right? And then he flies away. So I don't really have much to say about that other than it's a fine summary. Is there anything you want to add on the affirmations and next steps?
No, I'm good. Although he does have several case studies about people that he's worked with who've implemented this sort of stuff, which I think is not just social proof for, hey, you should totally work with me, but I think there's some examples that are shared there that, could be useful to you if you're trying to implement this as well.
Okay, I was including that as a second or like another section of the text. If you're talking about the sponsorship success stories, is that what you were talking about there? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I treat that as a separate thing, and the reason why is because it's a significant number of pages. Like
Yeah.
he does not hide detail in those success stories. Um, Honestly, like I skimmed through these success stories, and here's why. I think these are valuable. I'm already sold. Like I don't need these success stories to help me make the decision that I'm gonna like take these principles and try to apply them. Like he convinced me through just how good the rest of the material was. So it's like
Yeah.
I didn't really need these at the end of the book, but I'm sure that like they're valuable cases or examples of, hey, look at how this has worked in the past. I think the other thing that slightly gets me with these, and this is like a little bit of a negative on this, is like you can cherry pick these to make them to be not as realistic for most people, right? And not as realistic
Yeah.
for
True.
everybody. So it's like I tend to be hesitant with these just in general because I've seen them being created on the front end, and I know that like they can be kind of cherry picked. So I'm not saying he did that, so don't. Hopefully, you don't read that as me saying they're 100% negative. I'm just saying like I have a bias towards that.
Yeah, so the reason I called this out is if you look at what he's got here in step 8 for creating the case studies, There's like photos or screenshots, behind the scenes facts, things like that. Those are that's where I feel like the things that he shares here have more value in addition to just creating the social proof of, yeah, Justin knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
If you could see what somebody else did for their pitch, for example, or what their sponsorship actually looked like, it can help you when it comes time to implementing this stuff for yourself. And again, he's got the resources at the end of each chapter, which probably uh, help you a whole lot more than looking at these case studies would. But I guess I kind of like that sort of stuff. It's like, what are the successful versions of this that have happened in the past, and how can I copy this in a sense? That's actually what I did with the Life HQ launch, by the way.
Okay.
So Justin Welsh, do you know who Justin Welsh is?
No.
Okay, so he built a huge audience on LinkedIn, and he launched a course. I think it was like last summer, called the Creator MBA, and he has a big following. And I had signed up for the wait list, and I noticed, I basically just like looked at the types of emails that he was sending leading up to this launch, because there were like 10 of them. And on every email, he talked about something specific, and then he would link to all of the other emails previously. So this is sort of, this is what I did with Life HQ, and it's sort of the basis for some of the Creator Business Accelerator stuff that I'm doing. I don't even think we talked about that. But by the way, I'm working with a group of 5 people to
Yeah.
help them implement this stuff.
We haven't.
It's not open to the public, so we can skip it. But anyways, it works because I had a wait list of 200 people when I launched Life HQ, and I was sending these emails a couple times per week. And it's always like, this is my hot take on PKM and why I think the big graph view is useless and why you should be using the local graph instead. And here's why I do my task management in Obsidian. Here's how I do my journaling. Here's how you align all this stuff so you do more of what really matters. That the stuff where if someone is coming to the Mike Schmidt's Practical PKM universe, they look at it and they're like, whoa, this is different. This is either for me or it's not for me. Right? Getting them to decide that ahead of time. And I continue to like just talk about what I'm building and how it's going to work. The last email in that series that I sent was, this is why I don't want everybody to buy this. And I clearly outline, if you are going to use this primarily on mobile, this isn't for you. If you just want, all these other things, it's not for you. And then when I actually launched the product, I had 400 people on the wait list, and I sold it for $197, and I did 65K in 3 months. And I've tried to maintain that momentum, which has been the hard part.
Yeah.
But the launch itself was really successful. And it was all like, there wasn't Justin Welsh saying, well, this is how you do this. I knew Justin knew what he was talking about. I knew that he had done $1 million launches for video courses before. And so every single email that he sent out, I was like, well, if I were to take that and twist it, to talk about Obsidian and PKM and Life HQ, what would that look like? And that was kind of my starting point as I wrote those emails.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Because he knows what he's talking about. So why reinvent the wheel?
Oh, exactly. Like I completely agree. It ties into the idea of basically there's nothing new under the sun, right? Like, so we're just going to take these ideas and we're going to refactor them, and we're going to figure out how they apply to our context. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So let's move on to action items. So I'll start because it's my book. My action items are very generic, and I'm frustrated by that, but that's where I am right now. Like, I don't have another way to do more tangible. Like, I want to tangibly start to apply everything in this book. Like, absolutely. Like, I want to do that. I'm just not there. Like, I don't think that I'm there. Now, the caveat to that, Mike, you may be able to convince me that, like, for Bookworm, we are there, and I need to like start acting on those type of things, and I can own more of the Bookworm process. I'll let you do that either publicly, or you can do it behind. Like, that might be one of your action items, is talk to Corey about sponsorship. But like, so my two are really, I want to download the resources because I didn't have a chance to do that during the reading of the book. So I want to go and download those resources because I want to look through those and I want to kind of get an idea. The other thing I'm thinking about here is like, there's an interesting model here. We've seen people write books like this quite a bit. in the last, I don't know, what, 6 months. You and I've read like quite a few books like this. I want to see that model, and I want to try to like take that model and figure out what it means for the kind of stuff that I want to write, because I think Justin did it really well. Like I think he did it very successfully. I enjoyed the book, and I think that if there's a model that I want to copy, it's his. Right? Like I think it's a really cool model to copy. The second one is I want to grow an audience. So I don't know what that means. And I balance the idea of, you know, am I doing this because I have a thing that I really want to communicate to people? Right? Or am I doing this because I want to have more people, follow me and listen to what I say? And I really think it's the first. Like, I don't think it's the latter. I really think it's the first. It's like there are these things in my brain that I want to get out to people and I think will help people as they travel through life. And I'm trying to figure out like how do I do that? How do I grow that audience? One of the problems is I hate social media. So that is one way that you grow an audience is through social media, but like I hate it. So it's like every social media post I do, I like have to think like 10 times harder than most people about it. And I'm like, like what is the thing? And I feel like I'm pushing a boulder up a hill. But I think those are my two action items out of this, is because I think growing that audience allows me to then utilize those resources, even though I know it's not required. I do think it's part of that process. It's all part of the same ecosystem. So those are my two. Mike,
Yeah.
Mike, what are your action items?
Well, number one, if you really want to grow an audience and you're interested in the Creator Business Accelerator thing, we just started it yesterday, and be happy to hook you up.
So here's what I'll tell you, Mike, is I looked at it. I almost pushed go. Like I was like so close, and I was like, Corey, your brain, like you can't survive. It's like if you try
That
to,
is my concern about just throwing you in there. Yeah.
if you try to do this right now, like you will die. Like and I don't mean that like literally. I mean that like I will be in a puddle on the floor. So it's like the only reason I didn't do it right now was
Okay.
because I will
Okay.
be in a fetal position on the floor of my bedroom.
Well, grow an audience, that's not something you're going to do by next time,
Nope.
but it is something that's a long-term one.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I would love to work with you on that. Maybe there's another action item here for both of us, which is related to this, and that is to sign up for sponsor games. I'm not sure if you can swing that, but that would be really cool to go to that conference and put this stuff into practice. But
Okay. I'm
typing in Notion.
I'm adding one right now that says think critically about sponsored games.
All right. So I've got two which really are not get sponsorships related, which is something I know I need to do, but is also something I just haven't had the bandwidth to really think about, which is why I've been putting off reading this book for so long. I picked it up so many times and started reading it and was like, I can't even right now.
Yeah.
Put it back down. So you picked it for Bookworm. You made us go through it. I appreciate that. But my two official action items are to define my STP, which is way back at the beginning and becoming a sponsored magnet, which is surprising transformative promise. I've got a bunch of the elements of this. I've got the ideal customer profile, my brand promise, all that kind of stuff. But I think this is an interesting way of packaging this, and I want to think through what that is and hopefully share that next episode. The other one is to create checklists for everything. As I mentioned, I think I've got checklists, but they could be tightened up a little bit. So I want to think through all the different checklists I have, update them, and maybe create some new ones.
Nice.
And at some point in the next 6 months, I do need to do something about sponsorships because I get weekly at least one pitch from a sponsor, potential sponsor, usually not brands that I would like to work with. So why not be proactive in,
Yep.
in reaching out to the ones that I do want to work with?
And
It
Justin
makes total sense.
and Justin Moore would say that you need to go research those ones that would be a win-win-win.
Yep. I already know what they are.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
there are very obvious tools and services that I use all the time, and I talk about them all the time. Literally, part of my newsletter strategy, I've broken it apart into 3 separate emails now, but I share a big idea. I share notes from a book that I've read recently, so I'll be sharing the sponsorship magnet notes to my my email list at some point. You can sign up for that if you want at practicalpkm.com. But the third category is something cool. I find something cool that I think people will enjoy and I share it. And it's usually PKM or Obsidian related.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't need to, it doesn't need to be a big company. I'm not going after, gosh, I don't know. What's a big company? Lego.
Yeah.
I'm blanking. Like those really big ones that you would see the TV commercials for.
Yeah.
That's not who I have to go after.
Yeah.
I could go after Morgan. I could go after the other people who have made incredible Obsidian plugins and have commercial services attached to it. Uh, I got a I got a message from Carlos Zotman via Mastodon. I'm not even on Mastodon, but he is, and I mentioned his actions for Obsidian in my newsletter, and then he posted something about someone must have mentioned actions for Obsidian because I got a huge spike in traffic recently, and someone pointed to the public version of the newsletter. I think it was Mike Schmitz. I was like, oh yeah, I love your plugins, and I use this all the time with my daily journaling stuff. Like people like that, maybe they don't have a huge budget, but
Yeah.
like I could totally reach out to
Yep.
those types of people and see what opportunities there are.
Yeah.
There's so many things where it's like I use this all the time. I just need to figure out who the person is that I would reach out to. Which, by the way, in the first section, we totally skipped over this. It gives you the exact formula for Google searching and finding these
Yes,
people.
exactly. Yes.
It's amazing. Like not that I'm working with Nike or Reebok or any of those, huge brands, at least not yet.
Yeah, yeah, not yet.
But there's so much low hanging fruit there, even for someone who has less than 10,000 people on their email list like I do.
Yep. All right, so we've got action items set. Now let's go to style and rating. My book, so I start. This might be one of the fastest style and ratings that we've ever done, or at least for me, for my side of it. This is a 5-star book. I mean, this book is wonderful, and it's wonderful even in the framework of I'm not in Mike's position where I have an audience. Like I mean, I have the bookworm audience, right? But it's like I don't have my own like independent creator audience, right? Like I'm a little bit distant from I think who the target audience of this book is, and I still got a ton of value out of this book. Like I loved every aspect of this book. I liked reading this book. My only blemish of this book has nothing to do with Justin Moore. It has to do with I don't have an audience like as big as I want. Like I mean, and that's nothing to do with him. So this is clearly a 5-star book. I think it's written well. I think the visuals are good. They add value. I think the framework makes sense. I think the sub frameworks make sense. Like there is really very little to nothing I have to say negative about this book. Anybody who's a creator or anybody who is even in business and is thinking about partnering with other brands to do sponsorships and those kind of partnerships, I would 100% throw this book at them. Like I'm even to the point where it would make sense. Like, I mean, I don't know because I've never done his cohort. It would make sense for you to recommend somebody to go to his cohort because it's like, listen, this book is so good. The cohort can't be bad, right? Like, and when I'm in that mental,
Yeah.
when I'm in that mindset, I mean, it's a 5-star book. It's easily a 5-star book. So, so that's my rating. I'm not going to belittle it anymore. Mike, what do you got on your style and rating?
Okay, well, that's interesting. So to be perfectly honest, I did not expect you to rate this 5 stars. And I sort of had a hunch going into this that you were going to go into it, get into the meat of this book and be like, yeah, this really isn't for me. That was the scenario playing out in my head. And I think you can even hear it in my voice when we mentioned the upcoming books the last couple of episodes is like, are you sure you want to go through this, Corey? I'm not sure this is relevant.
Mm-hmm.
So up until you shared your rating, I have been in turmoil here because I feel like this is a great book and I want to rate it 5 stars. But I was thinking in the back of my head, this just isn't for everybody. And it's got to be a 4-star book simply because the majority of the bookworm audience, I think there's a possibility they get into this and they just decide, yeah, I don't really care about the business stuff. I'm not going to try to get sponsors. Like, there's nothing here for me. But if there's anyone who like there's nothing here for them, at least right now, it's you.
No,
And
I loved it. Like it taught you to think differently about these negotiations and about the
yeah,
producing
yeah.
stuff. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thing is like if you go into it and you never get past that surface level of this is the sponsor wheel and I'm going to implement this in an effort to get sponsors. If you decide that that is not for you and you never get past that level, I think you should probably put the book down.
Agreed.
However, every single chapter, there is great information that is generally applicable. So I think when you get into the content of the book itself, it is a great recommendation for just about everyone. But I think there are people who are going to look at the name sponsor magnet. They're going to look at the subtitle, how to attract, price, and execute your dream brand partnerships, and be like, yeah, that's not me. And I think that's fine. You know, you can self-select if that's who you are. But I think if you're at all interested in this book and you pick it up and you start reading through it, you will not be disappointed. And sorry, go ahead.
Let me give you a caveat. I cut you off, so let me give you a caveat. I think if you're in that camp, just change the name of the book in your mind from sponsor magnet to partner magnet, right? Like
Sure.
because if you do that, these things all apply to any partnership, collaboration, whatever you're going to do. These same principles exactly apply. Like you just don't necessarily get the financial side of it, but everything else is just as good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like that framing. And yeah, I do think this is a great book. So with a gentle nudge from you, the outlier, I feel, for the audience for this book, I'm gonna rate it 5 stars too, which makes it a golden book. So
Yeah.
great job, Justin. And you know, it for full disclosure, I shared at the beginning, like Justin is a good guy and kind of a friend at this point. So you can look at my review of this and feel like maybe it's a little bit biased, but
Mine's not.
uh, it really, yeah, exactly. Like we have very differing opinions on a lot of books.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking of, was it Radical Candor? I rated 5 stars and you were like, you rated it 1 star
Uh-huh.
or 2 stars.
Uh-huh.
So kind of surprised that we align on this one, but pleasantly surprised. And yeah, this is definitely a good one.
Outstanding. Okay, so let's put sponsor magnet on the shelf. Mike, you've got our next book. What's next?
Next is a bookworm recommendation, and that is Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath. So thank you, Andrew, for recommending this one. If you want to recommend a book for Bookworm, by the way, there will be a link in the show notes for this episode where you can do that. After that, what are we reading?
After that, we are going to do Ryan Holiday's new book, which will release in about a week from when we're recording this. And it's called Wisdom Takes Work. And I believe, Mike, if I'm right, it's the last one in his Stoic Virtues series. It's number 4. And I think he's done with that series after this one, at least in theory.
Yep, he's gonna have to find something else to write
Yeah,
about now.
exactly. So we're gonna do Wisdom Takes Work by Ryan Holiday after that.
I jest, but
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well,
All right.
good.
You got any gap books?
No, I do not have any Gap books. Well, I guess I do have a Gap book, but it's not like one that I'm picking on my own.
Sure.
The Gap book I'm picking is part of that kind of the like mini seminary thing. It's called God's Kingdom Through God's Covenant. So I don't have any time otherwise than that. So that's the book that's getting ready.
Okay.
How about you?
I don't have any picked, but I'm gonna bring some books. We have a very, very long drive ahead of us next week, so hopefully I will have something to read. Then, in addition to the next book for Bookworm.
Outstanding. Okay, so thank you all for listening. If you are interested in more, our pro show today was on my experience with hackathons. You can become a pro show member by going to patreon.com/bookwormfm. When you sign up, you get a longer ad-free show whenever we are able to sell some ads or get some sponsorships, and you get a
Hopefully more of those after this one.
That's right. You get a bootleg that's released right after the recording, so it's about a week or two early. You get the Bookworm wallpaper. It's $7 a month, and it just helps us run the show. It helps us keep things moving. So if you'd be interested in doing that, that's patreon.com/bookwormfm.
All right. If you are reading along with us, pick up Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath, and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. Boom.
For those of you who joined us, Carol, thank you. Anybody else who's on the live stream, thank you so much. We're gonna shut that off now. So thanks, y'all.